The Nazis had a plan to win World War II that didn't involve tanks, bombs, or soldiers. They were going to destroy Britain with paper, specifically with perfect counterfeit British pounds. The plan was called Operation Bernhard, and it came terrifyingly close to working. This is the story of the most sophisticated counterfeiting operation in history and how it was orchestrated inside a concentration camp by prisoners fighting for their lives. It's 1939. Germany has just invaded Poland. Britain and France have declared war. And deep inside Nazi high command, someone asks a dangerous question. What if we could destroy Britain's economy without firing a shot? The idea was brilliantly simple. Britain's entire war effort depended on economic stability. Their currency, the pound sterling, was one of the most trusted in the world. International trade, military procurement, domestic morale, everything relied on confidence in British money. So what if that confidence disappeared? What if Germany flooded Britain with millions of pounds in perfect counterfeit currency? The British economy would collapse. Inflation would spiral. Black markets would explode. Trust in the government would evaporate. And Britain would lose the war, not on the battlefield, but at the bank. The man tasked with making this happen was SS Major Bernhard Kruger. He wasn't a general or a strategist. He was a mid-level bureaucrat with a background in economics. But the Nazis gave him unlimited resources and one simple order: forge British pounds so perfect that even the Bank of England couldn't tell the difference. Kruger knew he couldn't do this with ordinary criminals or Nazi Party loyalists. Counterfeiting at this level required world-class expertise: engravers, printers, chemists, bankers, forgers, the best in the world. And the Nazis had already imprisoned most of them. In 1942, Kruger was given control of a secret facility inside Sachsenhausen concentration camp, just north of Berlin. He began pulling Jewish prisoners from across the camp system, men who had been bankers, engravers, graphic artists, chemists, printers. These weren't volunteers. They were prisoners given a choice: use your skills to help the Reich or die. The operation was kept completely secret. The workshop was isolated in Block 18 and Block 19 of the camp. High walls, armed guards, total blackout of information. Even other SS officers didn't know what was happening inside. The prisoners were given better food, cleaner bunks, and lighter work compared to the rest of the camp. But make no mistake, this was still a death sentence with a temporary reprieve. If they succeeded, maybe they'd survive the war. If they failed, they'd be executed and replaced. One of the key prisoners was a man named Adolf Berger, a Slovak typographer. Another was Solomon Smolyanov, a Russian Jewish master counterfeiter who had forged documents across Europe before the war. These men understood. Their expertise was the only thing keeping them alive. The Nazis gave them one assignment: replicate the British £5 note. Now, British currency at the time was considered one of the most secure in the world. The paper was made from a specific blend of linen and cotton that was nearly impossible to duplicate. The ink contained proprietary chemicals. The engraving was done by hand at a level of detail that machines couldn't replicate. And every note had a unique serial number tracked by the Bank of England. The prisoners had to crack all of it. They started with the paper. The Nazis smuggled in genuine British notes for the prisoners to analyze. Using microscopes and chemical tests, they reverse-engineered the exact fiber composition. Then they contacted German textile mills and ordered custom paper that matched it perfectly. Next came the ink. British notes used a specialized ink that changed slightly under different lighting. The prisoners tested hundreds of formulas until they found one that behaved identically. Then the engraving. This was the hardest part. British notes were hand-engraved with microscopic details, tiny lines, curves, shading that were almost impossible to forge. The Nazis brought in some of the best engravers in Europe. Prisoners worked under magnifying glasses for weeks, perfecting a single plate. And finally, the serial numbers. Every British note had a unique number. The prisoners had to create a system that generated realistic, non-repeating serials that wouldn't trigger alerts at British banks. By 1943, they'd done it. The first batch of counterfeit £5 notes was so perfect that when tested against genuine notes, even experts couldn't tell them apart. The weight was identical. The texture was identical. The ink behaved the same under UV light. The serial numbers fell within authentic ranges. Bernhard took the first samples to Berlin and presented them to SS leadership. They were stunned. One officer reportedly held a counterfeit and a genuine note side by side and couldn't distinguish them. The operation was approved for mass production. By 1945, Operation Bernhard had produced over 8.9 million counterfeit British notes, totaling more than £130 million. In today's money, that's worth billions. But here's where the story gets even darker. The Nazis didn't just print money, they used it. Counterfeit pounds were used to pay German spies operating in Britain and across Europe. The bills passed through British banks without detection. They funded black market purchases of weapons and intelligence. And in at least one documented case, the Nazis used counterfeit pounds to purchase genuine British currency from neutral countries, effectively laundering fake money into real money. The prisoners, meanwhile, were living on borrowed time. Every day in the workshop was another day alive. Some of them deliberately introduced tiny flaws into the notes, microscopic imperfections that might one day expose the counterfeits. It was their only form of sabotage, their only act of resistance. But the Nazis didn't just stop at £5 notes. Flush with success, they expanded. They began forging £10 notes, £20 notes, even American dollars. The goal was total economic warfare. And then they planned the final phase, saturation. The original plan was to load planes with millions of counterfeit pounds and airdrop them over Britain. Imagine it, British citizens waking up to find money raining from the sky. At first, they'd think it was real. They'd spend it. It would flood into the economy. And by the time anyone realized it was fake, it would be too late. Trust in British currency would collapse. Inflation would spiral. The war effort would crumble. But it never happened. Not because the British discovered it, not because the prisoners sabotaged it, but because Germany ran out of time. By 1945, the Allies were closing in. The Eastern Front had collapsed. Soviet forces were pushing toward Berlin. The Nazis were in full retreat. In April 1945, as the war entered its final weeks, the SS gave the order to destroy all evidence of Operation Bernhard. Printing plates were smashed, documents were burned, and millions of pounds in counterfeit currency were loaded onto trucks. The prisoners and guards were evacuated south toward Austria. Along the way, they stopped at Lake Toplitz, a remote alpine lake surrounded by mountains. And there, under cover of darkness, they dumped everything. Printing plates, counterfeit notes, equipment. All of it sank to the bottom of the lake. The prisoners were then moved to the Ebensee concentration camp. As Allied forces approached, many expected to be executed to eliminate witnesses. But the war ended before the order could be carried out. On May 5, 1945, American forces liberated the camp. The prisoners of Operation Bernhard had survived. But the counterfeit pounds didn't disappear. After the war, the Bank of England faced a crisis. Counterfeit notes were still circulating. Some had been spent during the war. Others had been hoarded. Still more were discovered in hidden Nazi caches across Europe. The quality was so high that the Bank of England couldn't reliably distinguish real notes from fake ones. So they made an unprecedented decision. They recalled and destroyed millions of genuine British notes from the era, just to be safe. Think about that. The counterfeits were so good that Britain had to destroy its own real money. And the lake? Divers have explored Lake Toplitz multiple times since the war. In 1959, they recovered bundles of waterlogged counterfeit pounds, still recognizable after 14 years underwater. In 2000, more notes were found. But most of the operation remains at the bottom. The printing plates, the documents, the full scope of what the Nazis accomplished. It's still down there, buried in the mud. As for the prisoners, many wrote memoirs after the war. Adolf Berger published a book called The Devil's Workshop, which later inspired the 2007 film The Counterfeiters, which won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. Solomon Smolyanov testified at war crimes trials, helping convict several SS officers involved in the operation. But the legacy of Operation Bernhard goes beyond the individuals. It demonstrated something terrifying. Economic warfare can be just as destructive as military warfare. You don't need bombs to destroy a country. You just need to destroy trust in its money. And that lesson hasn't been forgotten. During the Cold War, both the US and Soviet Union explored similar tactics. North Korea has been accused of printing counterfeit US dollars for decades. Modern cyber criminals have attempted digital versions of the same concept. Operation Bernhard proved that currency isn't just paper. It's confidence, it's belief. And if you can shatter that belief, you can bring down nations. The Nazis came closer than most people realize. If the war had lasted 6 more months, if the airdrop plan had been executed, Britain's economy might have collapsed under the weight of its own fake money. Instead, the evidence sits at the bottom of an Austrian lake, a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous weapons aren't the ones that explode. They're the ones that silently erode trust until there's nothing left to believe in. If this story changed how you see economic warfare, subscribe. History is full of secrets still waiting at the bottom of lakes.